Welcome to another amazing episode of Personal Development Junkies.
Junkies, yeah.
I am Ryan S. Harvey the Great.
And I am Warren Styles Harvey.
And today we like to talk about something near and dear to almost, I'm pretty sure, every person. The false evidence appearing real. Now, when we talk about fear, fear is one of those things that we never really give energy to knowingly. Fear is one of those things where it's kind of almost an inside the house conversation. Like if I want to accomplish some things, do some things, capture some things, overcome some things, it's almost like that small voice in our minds comes out of nowhere to remind us of the things that we either wanted to do, aspire to do, or think we can't do. So fear has been one of those things for me personally that I've always tried to battle, whether it be, physical fear from fighting a person, or spiritual fear from going to hell, or emotional fear from getting my heart broken. You know what I'm saying? I've dealt with fear in every aspect, but on the other side of fear is courage, and I don't think we really give courage the same kind of attention we give fear. So my first question to you, bro, is how did fear control your life?
Well, fear controlled my life really by I dealing with, like I've said before, mental illness type of thing. I was obsessive about my fear. So I constantly thought about like the worst case scenarios. I thought about a lot of sickness to a point where I convinced myself that I was sick, and in different occasions, like relationships, having a lot of fear in that just because of how vulnerable you are when you connect with somebody else. I've dealt with a lot of fear, especially from that place, because when you're in a relationship, you have to. The deeper the relationship gets, the more you have to greet the fears, the ideas, the beliefs that you have within yourself. And you will basically start to treat that person and yourself from that place.
It's almost like exactly what you said. Everything starts to be either moved or kind of shifted or brought to you by your fears. And I can remember when I had times where I might have had something going on with myself, and I Google it. I might maybe cough a little too long, and I Google it, and Google will tell me the worst case scenario. And because I haven't put myself in a position of taking care of myself in the best ways possible, I allow Google to create fear within me. And let's not get it twisted. Everybody deals with fear. I don't care how successful you are. Everybody deals with some form or facet of fear. We have to be able to identify the fear and still take steps forward to overcome the fear. So what were some things that you did to overcome some things that you once feared?
Shit. A lot of the thoughts, a lot of the fears that I've had growing up, really, they still kind of present. I'm still, so it's really a journey of kind of moving away from it. But first, it's just really understanding what it is. Before I knew what fear was, I didn't understand it. So when the fear came, first it was a thought. A lot of the fear, the emotion is connected to a thought, or it's downloading your body. But for me, it's just that thought came, and then that emotion came, and that experience over and over and over. So I realized that really spending time with the truth, researching, really understanding how fear comes about, how it shows up, how it's energized, how it's powered, like what makes fear powerful, and learning that, I start to realize that it's actually me. Right. I realize that it's the way that I think and what I'm allowing my head and what I am allowing myself to give energy to. So that first is just learning about it. And then from that is really starting to say things opposite of what my fear says to me. You know what I mean? Those are the two things that I've been doing for a while, off and on. Like, it's just my own journey of dealing with resistance, but really just understanding, because that understanding will really help you figure out how to move and what your responsibility is. Because if you don't really realize your responsibility, how can you handle fear properly? You know what I mean? How can you move forward into out of fear, or how can you move forward despite a fear if you don't even understand it? Because if you don't understand it, it's so easy to succumb to it.
Absolutely.
You know, what kind of things did you do, that helped you out with fear?
For instance, getting into concrete, working for myself, I got introduced to a lot of fear. Because when I was working with my mentor at the time, I was in a safe space. He had control over the job. If there were any problems, they were on him. The good or bad from the customer was on him, right? All I had to do was show up. You know what I'm saying? All I had to do was work my hours and do my thing, and then go home. After I got off work, I never really had to think about that anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And once I became a person that worked for myself, I started to understand the responsibility that you have to your fears. All right? And so there would be times when I didn't get sleep thinking about a job. You know what I'm saying? Or nightmares about the job, being scared or wondering if the job was too big for me. But then I had to realize and take a step back that I've already seen a lot of this before, right? A lot of times we put ourselves in positions of being more scary than the situation. You know what I'm saying? We'll psych ourselves up thinking we can't do this, something worse is going to happen, something bad is going to happen, when in all actuality, something beautiful will happen, and we have the ability to adapt, right? You can either adapt to fear or adapt to courage. So I think the thing that I really learned was that I have a choice of what I adapt to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so even when I think about me speaking and standing up in front of hundreds of people, one day it'll be thousands. I have so many people come up to me and be like, man, how could you stand up in front of people and be vulnerable and tell your life, or tell some of the things that you've been through? And it's like, I don't really look at it as a fear. I look at it as a freedom. Like this is speaking is like one of the things, I'm sure with your paintings, is like one of the only things in life that makes me feel the freest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And in that freedom, I don't even acknowledge fear. Right? And so I think the vast majority of our problems result from not even doing the things that make us feel free, and spending more time in just being scared of the freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like, how much freedom did you becoming a better painter give you financially, mentally, spiritually? You know what I'm saying? And so again, if you are willing, if you want to battle fear, battle your freedoms. Find out what makes you feel free and do those things religiously.
Yeah, because it does make it easier when you do that, and when you're doing something that you are passionate about, that you connect with, like it actually gives you more reason to push through. You know what I mean? Because of the fulfillment that you get from doing it. You know, when you're afraid but you allow yourself to do, you actually are showing yourself that it's not all that your fear says it will be. And the more you do that, the more you're able to experience the freedom that comes from your passion. And you'll start to see courage come from that, because you are feeding yourself you're expressing your passion and being courageous through that, and that is actually teaching you how to stand up to fear and do it anyway. It's one of the things. It's like it's a practice. You have to continually work at it and make a decision to not choose fear and choose courage. And the more you do it, the better you get. But you have to be okay with discomfort, because that's a part of it, and you can't allow the discomfort to continually stop you, because the discomfort is going to be present in to some degree. It's going to be present, and you have to be okay with that discomfort and not allow that, because sometimes when you're uncomfortable, it inspires fear and inspires all these what ifs, and then you allow your mind to just go anywhere, and you start to connect to the possibilities. And one thing that I've learned is that the darkness, the unknown, is scary, and we already create what we say the darkness is to us individually.
Absolutely.
So when that darkness comes, basically when something comes and you don't know what it's going to look like, you resort to what you said the darkness is.
Correct.
And so whatever you said the darkness is, when that situation comes, you're going to connect to that. So that's when you connect to the fear. When it's darkness, you decide what's there. When you don't know what's going to happen, that's darkness. When you don't know yet, and you just have to go into that experience and find out. You create it in your mind to be what you've already said it will be. And you have to do that work, so that when you approach darkness, you approach it with light. You approach it with something that serves you, fulfills you, instead of something that makes you want to run away. But you have to, in your private time, you have to download things that speak life. You have to, because if not, then you are automatically
overwhelmed.
Yeah, and the world is constantly giving you things to fear. Like, that's one of the biggest powers that they have is making sure that we are afraid. Because if we're afraid,
we're easy to control. When we are afraid, we are easy.
Because we comply.
We comply easy.
Yeah.
Quickest, the fastest.
Yeah.
When we're in a state of constant fear.
Yeah.
We don't get anything accomplished. And it's so interesting that I can remember personally praying so much to God, asking for opportunities, wanting a difference in lifestyle, more opportunity, and He always gave it to me. And I was always scared to meet Him. Right? Like I would ask so much to get a better situation, maybe a better car, maybe better living conditions, maybe travel more, eat better, whatever. I'm always given the opportunity, but fear always dictates if I'm going to do it. Right?
Word.
Just in my sheer inaction. Right? And like, if you truly want something to happen, you have to almost, without a shadow of a doubt, know that fear will be present. Right? And the last thing that is going to stop you from overcoming anything is the fears you place upon yourself. 99% of the time, it's never an actual fear. It's always the perception of a fear that actually stops us, not
the what ifs.
The what ifs. Yeah. Like this, like there is no. Like there is no no. It might be a not yet.
Yeah.
But
if it's not yet, you don't want it yet. If it's a not yet, you don't want it yet.
You don't want it yet. But that's still, like, I think we fear because we either are scared of it or it's unknown. It's that darkness you were talking about. Not in the sense of it being negative, but it's just an unknown place. Right? So we fear things that we have no control over, that we've never experienced before. And it's so interesting how just us in general, we can connect to negativity like that. But the positive, like it's almost like one of those wells where the water, you got to crank that thing up a little bit before you actually start to maybe believe it. And it's almost like that's how fear is too. Where fear is instant. Like it don't take much for you to believe in the fear. But if you want to move away from the fear, you gotta do some work and crank that thing, because even if you become successful, fear is going to move in a different direction of fear of losing it. You know what I'm saying? So fear is always around with anybody, but we have to be in a position where we don't let fear control our actions, our decisions, and how we react.
Right. It's one of the things you kind of have to kind of expect fear to show up. Like expect it, like, and just know what it is, and that it's not an energy of truth, but you know what I mean. It's really imagination. It's just like what is type of thing. So when it does show up, you have to understand what it is, so that you don't feel the need to run away from it. You know what I mean? That you don't perceive it as something negative. Because one thing that I've learned is that excitement and fear is pretty close to the same thing in experience wise. What makes it different is the narrative, what we say, and the thing that we are witnessing that is inspiring the energy. It's, you know, so it's really, the energy is not the problem, it's what we say about the energy. You know, and really learning how to have a different conversation with self when that energy arises. You know, because that energy, you can make it inspire you, encourage you to go towards the thing that you want to create, or stop you. It's just all about what are you saying about the energy. It can just be excitement. You know what I mean? You can just be really excited about it, and instead of it being you being afraid. Because once you label it, you actually then invite thoughts that reflect that.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. That's like when I jumped out that plane.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that. Yeah.
All right, when I jumped out of plane, 14,000 feet, and when we got there, you know, in my mind, I'm like, man, anything could happen, right? I could possibly die. What if the parachute don't open? What if dude that's on my back, what if he don't like black people?
Like, I'm just trying to drop it.
Like, hey, everything came to my mind, right? So when we get there, we get all dressed, we put on our stuff, then it started raining. So the guy come out, he like, yo, we gonna have to wait, we gonna have to give it 30, 45 minutes, right? So in that time frame, they gotta take you into this room where you sign your life away.
Yeah.
Right? Where they say, look, when you sign this is basically saying, if you die, you can't sue us. Right? So in that moment, you like, oh, shoot, this is real.
Just die.
I may die. If they having me go through all this is serious. I may really die. All right? So after that, you know, we sitting there, the plane come up.
Yeah. We
get on the plane. They doing a little interview and stuff. We get up in the air. We take off. Right? We get to a certain height. I'm like, all right, this is pretty high. Wow. We ready? He's like, no, we've only reached 4,000. We still got another 10,000 to go. I said, well, how long is that going to take? He said, 10 minutes. I said, damn. I'm like, in that moment, the buildup is causing fear to grow within me. Yeah. Because there's this glass door, right, that they push up and all the air come in. All right? And so I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about all the things that I would love to do that I haven't done yet. I'm thinking, man, Ryan, you crazy. Right. Who told you to get up in this plane and jump out and try to do all this other stuff that is dangerous, right? We get up to the edge. Dude is like, hey, hang your feet over the plane and we going to fall out. Yeah. And I look back and say, what? Like, because in my heart, I'm sitting here trying to think and prepare myself to jump out this plane.
How could you do that?
And it's impossible. All right? So as soon as we fall out this plane, take a deep breath. All right? We get stabilized. He tapped me on the shoulder. I let my hands go. And I literally feel bliss. Right? Now, all of the fear that I had that whole time, of going up to that height, getting up to actually 14,000 feet and like really seeing everything, bro, I was scared, right? Like, I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do this. But the last thing I told myself, look, I can't turn around and go back. I can't get out the plane walking. Yeah, right. It's just, I just can't.
How defeated would you feel if you?
I would have felt so defeated, man. But I had to push myself, right? And sometimes that pushing yourself. Look, when I first fell out that plane, I had to close my eyes, right? But sometimes in order for us to go past our fears, sometimes we gotta do that. Sometimes we gotta be like this.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna just trust.
Because we letting go what we think we see, what we know.
See and what we attach to. That's all that is already implanted us with a fear in our mind. So I'm like, man, I gotta close my eyes, take a deep breath, and I'm gonna jump out of here. But as soon as I open my eyes and breathe, bro, it was bliss. The last thing I even thought about was fear. So when he opened the parachute, he's like, hey, man. Usually at this point, nobody wants to have fun in the parachute because they've been so scared, whether it's the actual jump, the free falling, or whatever. He's like, man, would you like to do some tricks? I was like, yes. Like, I'm trying to experience this. Like, I've just overcome a fear. Like, if I just did that, man, let's do some tricks in this parachute. Go up and down, go around in a circle, all that. It released something in me that said, you know what? I want to do something else that I'm scared of.
Word.
I want to free myself of something else that I held for so long that kept me in a box and said, man, I can't do that.
Right.
You know, but instead, bro, the feeling that I had once I overcame that fear and just jumped out, it was amazing. And the next thing I said when we landed is that I'm ready to do it again. Right? So if you are somebody that is fearful of something, think about the same way you would fear whatever it is. I was scared of jumping out of a plane at 14,000 feet. And I needed to accomplish that fear in order for me to not be fearful of other things that I once was scared of.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right?
It's crazy
important because it
did wonders for me, bro.
Yeah, it just teaches you. And watching the video, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was actually crazy just watching you do it.
Yeah,
because it was so much energy that I was experiencing just from watching it. You know what I mean? And it made me actually connect even more to the freedom that I saw on your face.
You've never seen me with that kind of freedom,
right? Because of the energy that I felt in watching it. On top of that, seeing your freedom made me feel like in that moment, just I was witnessing, but I was connected to it. You know what I mean? So it was an experience. So once after I got done watching it, it was like that was still lingering, as if I just did something. I was like, "Yo, dude!" And then when I saw someone else post that, I was like, I felt the same way.
Yeah, you know what's also
like, that was extreme.
What also I took from what you just said is that if I didn't jump, I wouldn't have never had that moment.
Nope. And the people witnessing would have just experienced fear.
Correct.
Instead of excitement and freedom. You wouldn't even allow people to experience. So when you say yes, it inspires other people to
say yes.
And to experience freedom while you're saying yes.
Yes.
Not just only in their action, but your action is allowing them to feel more free.
Correct. Correct.
And that's the end of that, bro.
Yep.
That's
so
good.
we'd like to
thank you.
Definitely thank you for watching another episode of Personal Development Junkies. Before we get done, this is episode 7. We gonna try to get up to 100 of these things.
Hey.
But real quick, can you give some of our viewers something you've done to battle your fears? Because I want to make sure that while we talking about so many things that deal with principle and character and all those things, that we try to give them some things that we've used in our life.
Well, it's good. It's really good to do what you love to do, like you were saying. Like connect with what makes you feel good, and just do that. And then sometimes then start putting yourself in positions that make you a little uncomfortable when it comes to that. Because the more you're connected and the more that thing makes you feel good, the easier it is for you to push through fear. So my artwork has allowed me to actually be in situations that the thought of made me really uncomfortable. You know what I mean? The thought of it's like, just because when you're showing your art, whatever form that is, you're showing people you and allowing them to judge and say I like it or not. You know, that can be scary. You know what I mean? That's vulnerable, and allowing.
My speaking is the same way.
Put myself out there like that, and it's like it's fearful. I've had a lot of shows. You know, I've shown my art and did different things that made me feel fear, but because it was connected to what makes me feel fulfilled, I pushed through. you know, and pushing through, it just actually shows you what you're capable of. And a lot of times we actually need to see physical evidence of what's inside, and sometimes pushing through fear is that physical evidence. Yeah, because once you have that evidence, you move differently, and that's why little small steps are important, because every small step it plays a part in altering how you see yourself and how you see your fear. And just like you said, how do you consume an elephant? One bite at a time. That's what it is. It's like you're just taking little bitty steps and looking. Those steps seem small and seem pointless, and if I didn't do it, it's all good. But if you keep on doing it, it's you're taking a bite, and then you will be able to see yourself do things that you never could imagine yourself do, because you wasn't focused on the bigger picture. You was just focused on the next step, the next bite, you know? And I feel like my artwork represents bite after bite after bite after bite, and now I get opportunities and recognition that I never did, yeah? Because I said yes to just the step. I said yes to the bite.
Hey, I don't need to give one. That's it right there. That's
okay,
it.
Good.
So that was heavy. So we'd love to thank you for watching.
We would love to thank you. No, we do thank you.
We do thank you.
We would love to, but we won't now.
We won't. But
no, thank you guys.
We thank you for watching another episode of Personal Development Junkies.
Yes.
Share with a friend.
Please.
If you replaying this, make sure you let us know that you replaying it or watching it after the live. We'd love to hear from you and see the comments.
Yeah.
Please continue to watch and grow with us.
Please. Boom shakalaka, y'all. Y'all know the deal.
Shakalaka.
Always and forever.
You know what time it is. Boom shakalaka.